Hello dear learners, so in today's session we are going to be looking at an SLA style 3D printer, stereolithography apparatus style 3D printer. So this is the 3D printer. This is by a company called as Formlabs, and this 3D printer uses a negative Z as the print direction. So that means it builds the part upside down. So the first thing that we are going to notice that it has this orange cover. So this orange cover protects the photopolymer resin from any stray UV lights that might be present in the environment. This here is the build platform. We are going to install this build platform inside this 3D printer, and you will see that it hangs upside down so that the print can be fabricated in the negative Z direction. The other thing is that we have this cartridge. This contains the photopolymer resin, and this can be inserted at the back side of this 3D printer, and we can use this cartridge to fabricate our parts. So this is the print tank, and this is going to hold the photopolymer resin, and we are going to install this print tank inside this 3D printer. And next we are going to show you the optics of this 3D printer, which is used to scan the outer contour and the inner area to fabricate the parts. Okay, so now we are going to insert this liquid tank inside this printer. You can just simply insert it like this. So now this is the print bed. So next we are going to install this print bed inside this printer. Lock this. So now this is the cartridge that contains the photopolymer, and we are going to install this inside this printer. So it can simply slot in like this. Okay, so now the printer has recognized that all these three things are inserted inside this machine, and it is ready to print. So this is the software aspect of this printer. This printer uses a software which is called as Preform. The general sequence of the steps or the general procedure remains the same that we discussed earlier. So you have an STL file, you generate the support structures of the STL file, then you slice that STL file, generate the contours, then select an appropriate area filling strategy, and then you print the part. So overall that sequence remains the same, but the GUI is slightly different in this case. Another thing that you can notice, that this is the optics here. So this is what does the scanning, that this is what actually guides the UV, the ultraviolet laser onto the selective areas to cure the resin. I'll put in a PowerPoint slide here to explain how it works, but basically what it has is, it has a single galvanometer to provide the motion of the laser beam in the y direction, and then the entire head moves along x. So you have y scanning with the help of galvanometer mirror, and then you have the entire movement of this optics along the x to achieve the scanning in the x direction. Now we have opened this lid so that we can get a better access to this scanning unit. You can see that this entire thing is the scanning unit, and this entire scanning unit moves along x. So this is the ball screw which guides this entire scanning unit along the x direction. But for the scanning in y, we have the galvanometric system, and you can notice that this black color part is actually the galvanometer. So you have the laser which comes from the top, then the laser is guided onto the galvanometer, which then tilts, the mirror tilts, and then it deflects the light upwards. And then we have this narrow slit. Through this narrow slit, this narrow transparent window, the light comes and it projects onto the photocurable resin. Another thing that you can notice is that the scanning unit has two rollers here. So these rollers slightly press on the flexible tank that we have, and it slightly bows the flexible tank upwards. So that helps in the peel away process, or the removal of the part from the optical window. And this technology is called as LFS technology, or the low force stereolithography technology. So in order to have a better understanding of Formlabs stereolithography apparatus and its light processing unit or its scanning system, let's look at this presentation. Here you can see that this is the light processing unit, or this is the scanning system of Formlabs SLA. So this transparent glass window that you see is the window from which the UV laser projects onto the print bed. If we were to look inside this light processing unit, we will find four key components. The first one is the laser. This is the UV laser. The second one is the galvanometer. The third is the fold mirror. And then finally we have this parabolic mirror. So this laser light which comes from this unit is directed onto the galvanometer. The galvanometer tilts, appropriately tilts, and then reflects it to this fold mirror. Subsequently, from the fold mirror, the light is reflected, the laser beam is reflected to the parabolic mirror, and from the parabolic mirror, the light is reflected onto the transparent window from which it emerges out and then projects onto the print bed. The motion of this galvanometer controls the scanning in only one direction. Let's assume that it controls the scanning in only Y direction. For the scanning in X direction, this entire light processing unit traverses, it moves back and forth on this lead screw. So one can think of this light processing unit or this scanning system as a hybrid scanning system where we have the galvanometer to achieve scanning in one direction, and we have the flying optics which achieves scanning in the other direction. Also, this parabolic mirror ensures that there is no beam distortion when the laser beam emerges from this transparent window and projects itself onto the print bed. So this parabolic mirror ensures that this laser beam remains perpendicular to the print bed as far as the scanning in Y direction is concerned, which is taken care of by this galvanometer. So these were some of the parts that we modeled and fabricated. So you can see that we have nested the parts. So several of these parts are placed on the single print bed and they were fabricated all at once. This blue color part you see is actually the part that we want, and then the gray color part is actually the support structure. So once we have modeled the part and we have set all the process parameters, we send the file to the 3D printer for printing, and here you can see that this is the laser beam which scans appropriately and it builds the part. So these were the final objects, these were the final parts that were printed. You can see that this is the build platform and then these are the parts, and these parts were printed upside down. So with this, I conclude this session on Formlabs stereolithography apparatus. Thank you very much. Hello dear learners, my name is Amrish Singh, and in today's session I will be demonstrating to you a fused filament fabrication style 3D printer. These types of 3D printers are more commonly known as FDM based printers or fused deposition modeling based printers. We have seen the physics of these printers in our week 6, which was on wire additive manufacturing. So these types of printers are most popular because of their economic and easy to use nature. So this is a printer by a company called as Divide by Zero or DBZ, and the model is AccuCraft i250 Plus. This printer has 3 axes. The Z axis is associated with the print bed, and the X and the Y axis is associated with the print head. So this is the print head and then this is the print bed. So we can move this print bed up and down, and in the X and Y position we can move this print bed, as you can see. And we can also operate this machine remotely. So you can see that this is the X and the Y motion which is associated with the print head. And we can also see the Z motion which is associated with the print bed. Okay, so the print bed is a heated print bed, and this is a glass print bed. I can show you that this is the print bed here. This is a glass print bed on which we deposit the part, extrude the material and deposit the part. So as we have previously discussed in week 6, that these types of 3D printers use wire form of feedstock. So today we are going to be using an ABS feedstock which is in the wire form, and I have that feedstock here. So this is the feedstock. It is in the form of wire, and the diameter of this feedstock is 1.75 mm. So this feedstock is going to be fed into this print head. So first it is going to go through the pinch rollers, then into the liquefier, and then from the liquefier it is going to be extruded from the nozzle. So the nozzle has an outlet diameter of 0.4 mm. So before we install the print bed, which is a glass print bed, and show you the procedure which we use to ensure that the first layer sticks to this print bed, I will show you that how we can load this filament into this 3D printer. So to load this filament into the 3D printer, I am going to slightly cut this filament at an angle of 45 degrees so that it will be easy for me to guide this through the tubing. So to do that, I have a cutter here. I have a cutter here, and at an angle of 45 degrees, I am going to slightly snip this filament. So you can see that now it has a sharp tip, and then it will be easy for me to guide this inside the tubing. So this is the back side of the machine, and this is the filament spool, and I have this filament which is going to, I am going to simply put this on this spool, and now this filament has to be fed inside this 3D printer, and you can see that there is a slight outlet which has a tubing. So I am going to take this filament and feed it inside this tubing. So now I am simply feeding it inside this tubing, and I will show you inside the 3D printer. Okay, so this is the spool that I showed you, and this is being fed inside this tube. So as I am pushing it, you can see that this white color tube is the tube inside which the filament is actually traveling. This tube is coming all the way, and then it is going inside this pinch roller, then inside the liquefier, and then it will be extruded through the nozzle. So I am simply pushing this out, and you can have a slight, you can see the silhouette of the filament. As you can see, this is the silhouette of the filament. It is going inside the tube, it is going, and now it has reached the end of this pinch roller here. So now you can see that this is the tube which is feeding the filament inside the pinch roller, and then the pinch roller is going to guide it inside the liquefier, and you can see that this is the pinch roller. So if I push on this lever, it is going to release the tension on the pinch roller, and as the tension on the pinch roller is released, I can easily guide this inside the liquefier. I will perhaps explain this through a PowerPoint, but for now let's simply push this lever here, and as I push on this lever, I will keep feeding the filament inside the liquefier. So I am going to push this. So let me try to explain as to what I am trying to do with the help of this small presentation. So this is the diagram of a pinch roller, and here you can see the roller in the 3 states. First is the state where there is no filament on it. Second is the state where I am trying to guide the filament, and third where the filament is completely installed inside the pinch roller. So in this state you can see this is the driving roller, and you can see that it has some serrations on it. These serrations are there to prevent the filament from slipping. So these serrations slightly bite inside the filament, and they push the filament through the liquefier and then extrude it through the nozzle. So you can see that this is the drive roller, and this drive roller is mounted on the shaft of a stepper motor. So this bottom part that you can see is actually the stepper motor, and this is the hole through which I will try to guide the filament inside. But you can see that the gap between this idler, which has no power to it, this idler roller, and this drive roller, the gap between these two rollers is very narrow, and this gap is not sufficient enough for me to push the filament inside. So what needs to be done is, we need to apply some force on this lever, this arm here. So that is what I have shown here, that we need to apply some force on it, and as we apply some force on it, the spring gets compressed, and as the spring gets compressed, this entire lever arm rotates about this hinge point. So as it rotates about its hinge point, this idler roller, this idler wheel is going to move away from this the drive roller, and it creates some spacing. So as I am pushing on it, I am also guiding the filament with my other hand inside this pinch roller. So after I have guided it through the first hole, the first entrance hole, I am going to guide it between these two rollers, and then this here is the exit hole. You can see that this here is the exit hole, and I will line the entrance and the exit holes. And once these two holes have been lined up, I'm going to release the pressure on this, release the tension on this, and as I do that, you can see that the idler exerts pressure onto the drive roller, and between these two rollers we have the filament which is trapped in between. So I have a close-up of this entire pinch roller mechanism, and you can see this mechanism in this video. You can see that this is the drive roller, this is the idler roller, And between these two drive and the idler rollers, you have the filament which is being fed inside, and then this goes on to the print head. Okay, so now let's continue to our demonstration. Okay, so now we are back to the front of this machine, and the filament that I kept feeding back in the where the spool was mounted, now as I kept it feeding through the pinch rollers, then through the liquefier, and I still kept some pressure on it, you can now see that the filament has extruded from this nozzle, and this is one of the strands of the filament. You can see this strand was pushed out of the nozzle at the end of the nozzle. So one thing to note here is that this print nozzle is already heated up to a temperature of around 250 degrees centigrade. That is the reason I was able to take the filament, which was of 1.75 mm diameter, and easily push it through the nozzle, which has an outlet diameter of 0.4 mm. So next we are going to show you the process of preparing the print bed. So it is a glass print bed, and we prepare a slurry of ABS mixed with acetone to ensure that the first layer of the print sticks to the print bed. So this is a slurry which is made from scraps that were generated from the previous print. So usually the support structures which were there for the previous print, we use those support structures and we mix them with some acetone to prepare a slurry. Now this slurry is going to be spread onto this print bed, and this is going to ensure that the first layer of the print sticks to this print bed. And then I am going to use this scraper to spread the slurry evenly across what I think is going to be the print area. So now I have spread the slurry onto the print bed. So the next step is going to install this print bed onto the machine. And so this is the heated bed, and I am going to install this glass plate onto this heated bed. And now we are ready to use this machine for printing. So, so the part that we are printing is actually a pulley. So it is designed in SolidWorks. Then we have used the Cura software, which has already been explained to you. So using that Cura software, we have prepared the G codes, and now we are going to send the G codes to this machine for further processing. So after the part is printed, we will come back and we will see how the part looks. Okay, so after 1 hour 45 minutes of print time, the part that we started printing has now completed. So I am now going to open this printer and take the print out. So you can take the entire print bed out like this. So this is our small print, and using this scraper we can take this print out and examine it. Okay, so the print has easily come out, and now you can see. So this is the raft or the brim which it deposits on the print before actually printing the part. This is deposit, and then on top of this the printing is done. So this is the pulley. This pulley currently has some support structures on it, so we are going to remove these support structures and show you the final part. Okay, so now we have removed the support structures that was printed in order to support the overhang features. We have cleaned the support structures, and this is the final part. So I'll show you some of the images, share some of the images of this final part at the end of the video. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Today we are going to demonstrate you a popularly used metal additive manufacturing process, wire arc additive manufacturing, also known as WAM. In this process, we use the feedstock material in the form of wire, and an electric arc is generated between the feedstock material and a substrate for fusion of the material. This technology is popular among the metal additive manufacturing industries because of its high deposition rate over other metal additive manufacturing processes such as selective laser sintering, selective laser melting, lens, etc. Because in these processes, we can achieve a layer height of maximum of around 300 microns, while in case of WAM, you can attain a layer height of around 8 to 10 mm. which makes the process faster, and you can realize a large metallic component in a very short span of time. So in this technology, we will be using a deposition unit. That the deposition unit can be either gas metal arc welding, or it can be gas tungsten arc welding, or we can use even plasma arc welding based deposition units also. So here we are using a gas metal arc welding based deposition head, and it has been manufactured by Fronius, and its model is Transsteel 2200. Its deposition part has been governed by a CNC machine, which is a 3-axis machine. So here you can see its 2 axes are given to the bed, that is X and Y, and the Z motion is given to the CNC head, and the deposition torch has been attached to the CNC head only. And it's not necessary that you have to use CNC machine only. We can use even robotic arms or robotic manipulators to govern the XY motion of the deposition nozzle. So here we are using a mild steel wire of 0.8 mm diameter. This is the deposition unit that we are using in this wire arc electric metal setup. So this is the Fronius module, and this is a gas metal arc welding unit. So here you can see here that the feedstock material, which comes in the form of wire, and in terms of spool only, you can see here this is the spool of the feedstock material, and here you can see this is the pinch roller through which the wire will be feeded. You can see this mild steel feedstock material, and it passes through these rollers, and this roller is rotated through with the help of a stepper motors, and through which it will pass through this hose pipe, and finally we can evacuate provided to the deposition torch. So now we can fix that roller like that. You can push it over here and just press it. It's now locked. And let's move to the other controlling panel. So to switch on the deposition module, there is a switch in the back side of the machine. We will switch it on, and now you can see here it has two display unit. So there are two modes of operating this machine. You can see here one is manual mode and another is synergic mode. In manual mode, you have to adjust every parameters manually, while in case of synergic mode, based upon the material that you are using, the machine will automatically adjust the other parameters if you set one parameter. Like here, if you are running this machine at a constant current, like suppose you are maintaining the current to be say suppose 100 ampere, you can see here the voltage has been adjusted accordingly. Similarly, the other parameters such as wire feed rate all can be adjusted automatically. Like here at 100 ampere, you can see the wire feed rate is 6.4 meter per minute. If I increase the current, say suppose like 130 ampere, and if I go back to the wire feed rate, you can see it is now 9.1. So this is the advantage of running the machine in synergic mode. Then finally, for running the machine in synergic mode, you have to give input to the machine controller that what material you are using. For that purpose, you have to select the material of the feedstock wire that you are using. Like here we are using a mild steel material, so you have to select the option like steel. Then the diameter of the feedstock wire is 0.8 mm, so we have set it to 0.8 mm. Then the shielding gas we are using is a mixture of argon and CO2. It consists of 80% argon and 20% CO2, so we have set that to be in this parameter. We are using argon for shielding effect, while CO2 will provide us the cooling effect. There is another mode of operation like for switch triggering the welding switch. These are 2T mode and 4T mode. There are two modes of controlling the torch switch. One is 2T mode, another is 4T mode. In 2T mode, we have to keep on pressing the trigger switch to keep on depositing the material. Once you release the trigger switch, then welding will stop and hence the deposition will be ended. While in case of 40 mode, you have to press the torch switch once and to release it, and then the material will keep on going, and the welding will be keep on going until unless you have to press it again and release it. We can consider the 2T mode like a accelerator pedal, where you have to press the accelerator pedal and up to until when you release it, it will keep on accelerating. Once you release it, the car will start deaccelerating. Similarly, for 40 mode also you can consider the switch of your household pump, in which there are two buttons like green one and red one. You have to press the green one and release it, then the water pump will pump water and it will keep on pumping until unless you have to press the red button and it will release that button. You can consider it like that only. To ensure the wire is coming to the hose pipe, there is a wire check button. By pressing that wire check button, we can check if the wire is coming to the hose pipe or not. Similarly, for checking the gas flow rate, you have to use this gas flow check button. This is the gas cylinder that is containing the shielding gas, that is argon CO2 mixture. So to open the cylinder, we have to use first we will open the cylinder with this cylinder key. Then we have to check here. This is the gas pressure, that is pressure of the gas that is inside the cylinder, and this is the flow meter. So usually for welding we keep the gas flow rate to be 10 liter per minute. So you can adjust the gas flow with the help of this knob. Then we'll open it and we'll maintain it to be 10 liter per second. Now we're going to ensure that gas is reaching the welding torch, and we'll also check the wire if it is coming or not with the help of the button we have already mentioned. Here you can see the welding torch has been attached to the CNC head, and we can control its motion with the help of the CNC code like NC files. And we are going to check if the wire is coming to the hose pipe or not. So I will be pressing the wire check button, like you can see here. We are keep pressing the wire. You can see here it's coming out. And for checking the gas, we have this gas check button. You can hear the sound also, like we are using. So we have to make sure that the shielding gas is coming, because it will affect the wheel part. Here you can see the mild steel wire is coated with copper. That's why it looks like a golden wire. So the copper is added to prevent the rusting of the mild steel. Here you can see we have bypassed two wires from the torch trigger switch, and we have attached these wires to the CNC PLC, that is programmable logic controller, and we are controlling this trigger switch with the help of a relay switch. And we have assigned two M codes, one for starting the relay, and that is for starting a deposition process, that is say for M51, and we have used another set of miscellaneous code, that is M code M52, to stop the welding process. This is the CNC unit. So here you can see this CNC machine has Siemens controller, and its version is Sinomeric 808D milling, and we can see these are the control buttons, like for cycle start, stop and reset button. We will not go into details in this CNC module, as this has been already covered in the previous video. However, I will just briefly tell you the buttons that will be required for depositing in worm setup. Like here you can see the feet can be controlled with the help of this knob, and remaining you can give the NC file through pen drive in this port. You can add this data, and this is the emergency button to switch off the CNC machine if it is heating, or if some emergency arises. You have to just press the button, And as you have already learned that thing, so for starting the CNC design, first thing you have to do the referencing on. So for referencing you have to use this reference button like that. So in this machine we can see the X and Y motions are given to the bed. I will show you in the jog mode. Like this is the handheld unit, or you can say like HHU. So here you can see all the axes are given like X, Y and Z and A and B. So here X, Y, Z corresponds to the X axis, Y axis and Z axis, while A and B are attached to the it used for rotation of the your bed. Like in higher axis or in higher kinematics you will use this axes. However, in this case we are using 3 axis only, so we will not go in details. Like, and here also you can see there is R1, R2, R3 and R4. This corresponds to the movement of the speed of movement. Like with R1 we can move the axis with in the scale of microns, 1 microns. In R2 we can move in faster rate, say suppose 10 microns per steps, like here. And in R3 we can move at 100 microns. Like you can see here, now I will move the x-axis. So you can see I've set the knob to be x-axis, and I've kept the movement speed to the R3, that is nothing but 100 microns. So you can see to the bed, like I'm moving it in anti-clockwise direction and I'm bringing it to the under the deposition torch. Then we can bring the z-axis below, and now we can set the work coordinate system, and you can store it in the work offset. That is in CNC, those who have already know this NC coding like Z54, Z55 and up to Z60, these are used for work to set the data related to the work coordinate system only. So here you can see we can adjust the job, and suppose I want to start deposition from this point, then I will store the data in store the coordinates of that point into the CNC controller, and we can store the data by going to the measure work. Here you can see measure work, then click OK. Then there are 3 options are there, like we can set the work offset in a single point, or else if it is a rectangular object, then you can set by attaching all the edges, and then it will automatically calculate the center point of that substrate. Then this is for lathe, so we will not go in details. So say suppose I want to set at a single point only, so I click OK. Here you can see it's showing that it will be 7 G500, but we want to store in a Z54, so I will change it to Z54. And now at that point I want to set the origin of my work coordinate system. So here I will set X, and I will set work offset. Then similarly Y I will set there, and Z. Hence, if I import the NC file and if I run the code and add the Z54 command, then it will start the it will consider that point as the origin for this for my work coordinate system. For depositing in wire and manufacturing, first we need to perform single bit experiment. Like here you can see that these are the results of single bit experiment. We deposit the bits at different parameters, say suppose different current, deposition speed, Y feed rate, like that. And you have already read these things in welding, like for different current or different deposition rate, we will obtain different bit profiles. So to optimize that thing, we need to perform this single bit experiment. Like based on the result of the single bit experiment, we have to next perform the multi-bit experiment to find out the optimal overlap. So after the results of the multi-bit experiment, we go for multi-layer experiment, and finally we just optimize all these things and we obtain the final 3D model. Generated a NC file for a spiral infill, and we have bring that code in this pen drive and I fed it to the machine controller. and we have generated the code by using a commercial CAM package like Power Mill, and then we have created that part from directly from the mill package. So we have to do some post processing, like whenever we encounter like Z01 or Z03, then we will incorporate the M51, that is nothing but a welding on command, and before experiencing Z00, we have to block another block of code, and we will add their M52 to stop the welding. So like here we have inserted the USB drive. Now you have to go to the USB drive by pressing this button. Then it will be popped up the documents that are stored in the USB drive, and we are going to execute this command. So we will just press execute button, then it will be load into the machine controller. Now we are going to execute this file. So we are going to start the deposition. So we will press the cycle start button, and we can see the deposition. So here we have set the current to the 120 amperes, and the gas flow rate is set at 15 liters per minute. Here you can see it's filling a circular cross section in a spiral pattern. So you can see we can realize a very large layer height, so like 4 mm or 3 mm. To realize such height in SLM or SLS, you have to spend time like half an hour like that, but here you can see we can obtain that thing within a half a minute only. So this is the layer we have just now deposited. So you can see it give a very fine finish, and you can obtain a near net shape in a very faster rate. And we have made this impeller by using this setup only, and you can see that we have obtained a near net shape in a very faster rate. You can see the impellers also, the blades also, like we have obtained it. We have manufactured object in within a time span of around 15 minutes. To realize this much large object in other process, say suppose SLM or SLS, it will take around 2 to 3 hours, because you can see its thickness is very high, like 20 mm, and to deposit 20 mm in other processes it will take 2 to 3 hours easily. As you can see, we have obtained the near net shape of the impeller through this wire arc arithmetic mixing process. So to obtain the final shape of the finished product of this model, we have to perform some finishing operation. So the advantage of using worm setup is like we can directly perform this milling process in the CNC machine itself, because you have already seen in the previous lecture how to perform this CNC machining. And the major advantage of using this worm is like we can take the advantage of both additive manufacturing as well as subtractive manufacturing. Like if you go to realize this machine, this object in additive manufacturing, like purely additive manufacturing, then it will take so much of time, and there will be it will take lot of time. But while in case of if you are going to realize that object with the help of totally subtractive manufacturing, like milling, then there will be lot of material wastages, and it will take around 20 to 22 hours like that. But the advantage of using worm is like we can realize the entire object within a short span, like 4 to 6 hours, including machining process. Because if you go for milling, then you have to make this entire component from a cylindrical object, and have to remove the materials. And as you have already noticed, the CNC machines are not total automation is not possible in CNC machines. So but in this case we can achieve that thing, and we can save a lot of material. And in the literature it has been proven to be save material of around 63%, while shifting from traditional manufacturing process to the wire arc additive manufacturing. So this is all about this worm setup. So thank you everyone.